Aston Villa season starts this weekend. Let's talk about it. As you can see, results haven't exactly been great. We have 3 wins. I mean, I only really count 2 of those because one is against Warsaw. But yeah, a lot of L's. That was a terrible American tour. Now, people will say to me, preseason doesn't mean anything. And it's true, to an extent. Preseason doesn't mean anything. I made a whole video on TikTok, and you can watch that there. I just want to go into a little bit more detail on this video. I think buying players, securing signings, loan deals, I think like that is more important than results, in my opinion. I'd rather lose every game, but, you know, buy some top players to have a bigger squad. Villa need it. We're in Europe now. We got to look at everything as a whole. We'll start with some real big positives, and we'll talk about players we've signed. And we nearly broke our transfer record with Amadou Onana from Everton. He's a top player for Everton. I mean, you can always tell based on a fan base, you know, if a signing is good, if a manager is good based on their reaction. A lot of Everton fans were upset when we signed him. And Onana, I think, was wanted by Man United for a while. It's a lot of money, but, you know, we'll get into it as well. But with players like Douglas Luiz leaving, I think someone needed to come in, and I think Onana is a great signing. In the end, we didn't have too much competition. We didn't have to spend a lot of money, but I think it will be worth it. Philogene, we had from our academy. We let him go to Hull. He had a very good season at Hull. And we signed him back. I think it's very simple. A little bit like Cameron Archer, except we were forced into Archer. He had a clause which was only leaked, I think, halfway through his contract, where we basically had to buy him back if they got relegated. And Sheffield United had an absolutely terrible season, and he came back. Now, if we have a look at Archer's stats, we can see he's gone out on loan a few times, did quite well at Preston and Middlesbrough. Sheffield United only scored 4 goals in a season. And now, as a striker, some people will look at that and say that's terrible. One of those was against Aston Villa, actually. We had a win record, if you guys remember. We had an incredible record at Villa Park consecutively, and it was actually Cameron Archer and Sheffield United who stopped that, which is just baffling considering how the season has gone. But yeah, he scored 4 goals and has come back. I'll give Archer benefit of the doubt. I think that whole Sheffield United team was terrible. I think you could put some of the best players in the world on that team, surround them with Sheffield United players, and you'll see that, you know, they'll probably struggle. I think maybe Archer probably could have done a little bit better, but, I mean, that squad was awful. The amount of goals they conceded. 104 goals. I'm pretty certain that was a record as well. 104 goals in a season is just genuinely pathetic. Now we come to our transfer saga with Douglas Luiz. Now, we had 2 incoming for Douglas Luiz outgoing, which was, I'm probably going to butcher this name, is Barrenechea. Probably to my Argentines watching, I'm very sorry. We've also got Illing Jr. as well. Thankfully, a little bit easier to say. These 2 were in the deal with Douglas Luiz. Villa, long story short, had to basically make sales. Because of PSR, Aston Villa just had to do, you know, some very difficult transfers. And Douglas Luiz, someone who Villa really value, someone, you know, many Villa fans would argue was our best midfielder. He had to leave. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame. I will say, and maybe this is cope. I'll hands up, could be copium. I thought Douglas Luiz has been terrible the last 3-4 months. Missed a penalty in a semi-final against Olympiacos. If he scored that, you never know. The semi-final, the second leg could have been very much different. And even for Brazil, he missed in the shootout. So I don't think he'd been as good as what we'd probably known him to have been maybe a year or 2 ago. But he's still a very high valuable player, and Villa will miss him. Then we go into probably a controversial signing with Dobbin. I mean, it's just reeks of PSR, an academy player. I mean, you could also look at a departure in Kellyman as well. He went to Chelsea, which we'll go into as well. Teams like Everton, Chelsea, Villa, we needed to make sure we followed these rules, and I think we kind of helped each other a little bit. Maybe it's a bit dodgy. Maybe it's under the table. I don't really care. I think the rules are stupid anyway. Ian Maatsen, another massive signing for Villa, 40 million. I mean, it was a lot of money. A left back who'd been on loan at Dortmund, played in the final for Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. He didn't, unfortunately, win it, but a very good fullback, and I mean, I think it is an improvement. Digne, I do like him, but he's not the quickest, and I think when we play a high line, it can be an issue. I will say Digne did very well last season, and he did impress me. But we've actually have some competition now, and probably the most bizarre one, in my opinion, was Ross Barkley, because Barkley at Villa, he was here a few years ago, and he was terrible. I'm sure me from 3 years ago could rant about how bad Ross Barkley was. However, I'll give him benefit of the doubt, a bit like Archer. I think Barkley went through... I think he went through a difficult time, trying to realise that he's probably not going to get into the Chelsea team. And I think it took a toll on him mentally. I think since he's been at Luton, he seems like a different player, someone who actually takes his career seriously. It seemed that way anyway. And we don't press. Villa are one of the lowest pressing teams, so we don't need someone who's going to run and run and run all game in the middle of the park. I think that pretty much suits Ross Barkley right to the core. 5 million, I'm not bothered with that. It's a very low fee signing. I think that's good business from Aston Villa. I've been ranting on a little bit from the arrivals. We'll quickly go into players leaving. Some of these are on loan, obviously, with Kessler. You know what? I will briefly say, I think Kessler probably arguably deserved to actually be at Aston Villa this season. I think Matty Cash has been poor for the last few years. I actually rate Kessler more than Cash. Maybe that's stupid. Maybe you'll disagree. I just think Cash has just been that bad. I don't think it would have been a bad idea to have Kessler at Villa this season. That's just me. Moving on. Crescene sold. I mean, again, a lot of these, we need to sell players. We need to make money, PSR, all that. And he went for nearly 2 million euros. Moussa Diaby was a bit of a sad one. Came in last year, had I think a pretty good season, a bit inconsistent, but I really like Diaby. It's always going to be difficult when you go into the Premier League. It's a tough league to go into. And I think he did show bits of quality. I think the Wolves game, he had the hardest shot going to the back of the net last year. I think there wasn't a single goal that was more powerful than Diaby that he scored. A little bit of trivia for you there. Very good player. A bit of a shame, but we made money on Diaby. I guess we've sold him for more than we bought him for. He's gone to Saudi. No skin off my nose. And Sinosalo was on loan at Exeter City last year. He was their player of the year, by the way. And we have sold him to Celtics. We made a little bit of money there. Again, I would have liked to have seen Sinosalo at some point be the backup to Emi. That's just my take. I've spoke to people who watched Sinosalo and they said he was very good, and he doesn't win Player of the Year for nothing. But again, Villa have to make money somehow. It is what it is. Kellyman to Chelsea. I do think it's just PSR. I really do. Same with Timo Rogbunam. So Villa sold the Rogbunam to Everton and we signed Dobbin. And I think we just kind of shook each other's hands a little bit there. Again, I'm not bothered. Douglas Luiz was the sad one for me. We spoke about it briefly. But Villa had to make that sale. I hope Dougie does well. I will say, like I said, I don't think he was great, really, the last few months. But I do think we will miss Douglas Luiz. Sanson... I don't think was ever given the time he should have been given. He had an issue with Dean Smith and then Gerrard, and I think Emery's moved beyond Sanson. I feel for him a little bit, but he has officially signed for Nice now, and the rest are a lot of loans. Again, like I said, the results don't mean to me as much as the transfers, but some of these results were very worrying. 4-1 hammering by Columbus Crew. I mean... I don't know how you can look at that, and some people say, well, we've got Feeney playing, we had Archer playing, Joe Gauci was in goal. I get it, but you should never really concede that many goals. I think that's a concern. Again, we had this whole issue with Diego Carlos, and I could make a whole video on Carlos right now, and some players like John Duran who just seem to be behaving a bit bizarre. And then the most recent one was Dortmund. I think this is where we had the majority of our first team out. Emi back in goal. We didn't have Ollie Watkins. I think that's like a big miss. But Pau Torres. Look, I love Torres. I think one of his best attributes is passing. We did see none of that. I thought Torres looked terrible in that game. And that does concern me leading up towards the start of the season. I could be waffling. I probably am. But that is my concern, right? These results, they're not great, are they? I want Villa, obviously, to do really well. I want Villa to batter West Ham, shut me up, make me look like an idiot. And then we can move beyond this. But I am worried. I am worried. Now, if we have a quick look, West Ham, Arsenal, Leicester newly promoted, Everton. Like, this is not an easy start. These 2 games are brutal. West Ham have signed an insane amount of players. Somerville, Fulkrug, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They're going to be up for it. They're at home. Villa don't really travel that well to West Ham anyway. I'm excited. I'm terrified. I'm all the above. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Is that what the YouTubers say these days? Hit the like button, all that good stuff. Thank you all for being here on this channel, give me all the support and all that. And I'm going to be doing live streams. I'm just going to pop this one up here. I will be live on both YouTube and TikTok for Aston Villa against West Ham at 5:30 on Saturday. And I'll see you guys all there. Peace out and up the Villa. Oh, just briefly, I did forget to say as well, I'm going to be doing another video tomorrow. I'll do a full breakdown on how I think the Premier League's going to fold out. A Premier League prediction video where I will definitely get every single position absolutely spot on. We'll see.